we as millennials are commitment phobic. Like everyone wants to, I got to be able to ghost when I want to ghost, right?
Yes.
Like, got to be able to eject when it's necessary, right? I'm like, damn,
Yes.
like that's a lot of my peers. So not only are we very commitment phobic, but we, as millennials especially, I feel like so focus, I think, is the new IQ, right? Motherfuckers not
Yes, we
focused
were talking
nowadays.
about that.
Yeah,
It blew
like
my mind when you said that.
it's like we have this all these, there's so much competition for our eyeballs and things going on. If you're able to just like focus on something, it's like Charlie Munger said, right? Take a simple idea and take it very seriously. If you're able to do that, you're going to become someone in the world. You're going to become someone successful. You're going to become the person that you want to become because the opportunities show up, the people show up, just like how my goal card. I just took a very simple idea and I took it very seriously. Just said, this is the thing. This is my goal. And I just went after
It's
it.
so funny you're saying that. I feel like I've had this serendipitous string of things that have happened. Like just over the last couple weeks, I've watched a few documentaries, just, whatever, that's what you do. And every single documentary I've seen or event that I've gone to or whatever has essentially been someone who was so focused on something and essentially achieved greatness out of it. Like Free Solo. I watched like a documentary on master sommeliers, on, like all these, what was the other one? I can't quite remember, but it's essentially people that became masters at what they do, but their one trait was focus and concentration. And I'm like, well, I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's so hard for people to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it, right? Like, what is the antithesis of all that focus? It's Instagram. Because you just scroll, and basically what it's telling you is, hey, Michele, I need you to give a shit about this. Okay, now I need you to give a shit about this. Now I need you to give a shit about this. And it's like all these different things that we're supposed to be giving a shit about. When the people who have struck some gold in their life, that have pretty much manifested what it is that they came here to do, have lived out their gifts, they just said, okay, all these things, they're cool, they're important, but this is my thing. This is my purpose. This is what I came here to do. And I'm going to go all in on that thing. Is it hard? Yes, because you're just bombarded by all this crap every day.
So what do you recommend for people that, I mean, we're all living in it now, and some of us have to be in it. So let's say, use the social media example. Like some people have to be in that for, say, business, or it's the new marketing, method, or whatever it is. If you have to be in that crazy environment, like what do you suggest for maintaining your focus and not allowing yourself to get too carried away?
I guess when it comes to social media, that's one of the principles in my whole concept of leading yourself. And one of the things I talk about is guarding your mind. And I try to guard my mind from what I would call the deception epidemic and the marketing holocaust. So if I have to use social media as a means for my business, let's say as a speaker, trainer, consultant, I am branding myself on Instagram. Well, if I might use Instagram to push my content out, I want to guard what's coming in too. So I've done like doing an audit on what it is that I follow. That's helped me out tremendously. Just like if I go down, if I'm just scrolling and I'm looking at things, and if that thing is not serving me or if it's not positive, it's got to go. Like it's got to go. It's something, if it's distracting me from the main thing, I got to remove it. And not only that, but some of the other things is like, what about the influence that you have around you, right? Like, are you guarding your mind from the people that might have good intentions for you, but their advice is just, it's counterintuitive to what it is that you want. It might come in the form of social media, and it might come in the form of friends and family in your life. So guarding your mind is something that I would say gets you away from all the shoulds in life. Everyone's saying, hey, you should be doing this, or you should do that. Well, do you know enough about me and what it is I'm after to be able to say what I should and shouldn't be doing? A lot of people don't. And a lot of well-intentioned people don't. On social media and face-to-face. Like, I love my mother. I love my grandmother. I love everyone in my family. But when they're talking about shoulds, I just wall off because they don't understand me. They don't understand what it is that I'm trying to do with my life. And you could say that's no fault of their own, or you could say maybe it is. I don't know, but I try not to care too much about that. So this is all a big game of knowing that the fucks I give are finite. and I'm going to die one day. So I better give a fuck about the right things. And all the things I see on social media and all the things that kind of catch my attention and take me down the rabbit hole, I'm pouring some fucks into those things, right? So yeah, it's one thing to use social media to push content out. It's another thing to understand what's coming in. Like understanding, hey, maybe this isn't right for my mind. Maybe using this time to just listen to music or listen to an audiobook or something might be beneficial.
How would you recommend navigating that space with people in your life, friends or family, that you feel like might not have as fruitful of a relationship as you would like?
Well, when it comes to friends and family, I think, and you could probably vouch for this too, the older we get, the smaller that circle gets.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I think
We've talked about that
we
a
let a
lot.
little bit more people in for some reasons, and we kind of like push other people out for other reasons. And it's not because we're like bad people or they're bad. I think one of the things that happens is we tend to bring morality into it. It's not good or bad. It's just, does this serve or does this not serve? And when it comes to friends and family, I love my family. I've been back for a few months and I'm kind of like full on my family. Like it's just too much, right? Like I spent the last 11 years kind of independent and doing my own thing and having FaceTime and writing messages back and forth. And I got to control the amount of exposure. And that was beneficial to my mental health. That was beneficial to my journey. And now being back for a few months, everyone wants to see you. And that's great. I want to see everyone too. But spending too much time in their space, because energy is contagious. The vibrations that you put out, that I put out, the frequency that we produce, it puts out a signal. And sometimes the signal that some friends and some family put out, it's not that great. It's just somewhere, it's on a different frequency. So did you see what I just did? I actually said I brought morality into it, good or bad. It's not good or bad. It's just not in line. It's not congruent with what it is that I
Absolutely,
want.
because they're on their own path and you're on your own path.
That's
and
it.
if they connect, then they connect. And if they don't, then they
Yes,
just don't.
exactly. So if I'm trying to distance myself from that energy, I know that it's not because it's a good or bad thing. It's not because I don't like you. It's just because we're not in line. Now, how you choose to take that is your choice. If you don't like me, that's your choice. I got choices too. I got the dignity of choice. How you feel about me is your choice. How I feel about you is my choice. If you don't like me, that's yours. I can still choose to like you, but still have some distance. And that is maturity as well.
It's so true what they say of you are the culmination of the 5 people that you spend
Big time.
most of your time with. Back to what you said, the older you get, the more true that is.
Yeah.
You know, I think when you're younger, you kind of just want the numbers. Like you want to have lots of friends and a big social life.
We
or
put people in the
whatever it is.
hopper.
Yeah. In a hopper?
Yeah, essentially, like when we're younger, we have so many friends, and then in the hopper, you know, it kind of funnels. And now, in our 30s and stuff, it's like there are far less people.
It's like I just don't have. Well, first of all, I just like care less.
Yeah. That's good.
And second of all, like I just don't the time. You know, you're getting your priorities in order.
Yeah.
And sometimes those priorities aren't like just having a big. You know, who am I going to get brunch with this weekend? Like, you know, your priorities are different.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wanna ask you more about the 6 principles, because I know this is one in your Leading Yourself segment. But before that, I did want to ask you about how your time in the military has affected your approach to what you do, because we talked about how there were parts of the military that you had to break away from to do what you do. But is there anything that you took away from that time that helped you with discipline, motivation, anything?
One of the things that I've really held on to, because there are things that I want to hold on to and there are things that I don't think serve anymore, is so the credibility markers are pretty important. I know that for me personally, I don't really care about the rank that I achieved in the military. It was just a reflection. Like, your rank does not say anything. It doesn't mean who you are. It doesn't say anything about you. It just represents what your commitment is and where you stand in the bigger scheme of things towards the mission. That's it. It does not say anything about my Mahyar Rostami. I know that to some people it means a lot. And the awards, the decorations, that means a lot. If that means a lot, happy days. That's your preference. That's your choice. Not good or bad. So the credibility markers were important for me to gain credibility with the audiences that I speak to on a one-to-one basis or the group settings and stuff, because I've always believed in this idea of like when you speak to people, when you train or whatever it may be in a video, whatever, I always follow that ethos, pathos, logos, meaning, hey, ethos, who are you? Because when people look at you, when you're speaking, when you're training, you got a podcast, a video, Everyone is looking at myself. Everyone's looking at who it is, and they're asking 3 questions all subconsciously. Number 1, who are you? Number 2, what do you have? Number 3, why should I care? So my military credentials or that discipline, people might not know what I did or what branch I was in, but when they think military, that schema goes, okay, there's some discipline there. There's
already a baseline.
Yeah, there's a basis.
Not just anyone can be in the military
Yes.
and for that long. And
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things. So the credibility markers were important for me. It helped me break into where I'm at now. The other things are, I think that one of the biggest things is I learned the principles of instruction in the military, and that really helped me kind of like pattern my approach for audiences outside of the military, for businesses and one-to-one stuff. And another thing is, just if we're talking about disciplines, have you ever read that book, or have you ever watched the speech? We had a great admiral in the military when I was in. His name was Bill McRaven. And Admiral McRaven, he gave a speech to the University of Texas at Austin, and he talked about the 10 things you can do to change the world. And he talked about the first principle is, if you want to change the world, you make your bed every day. And everyone kind of laughed, like, what? Why? And he had some really great stuff behind that. He basically said, when you start your day and you start that day with a small accomplishment, that's going to make you feel good. And a little accomplishment actually turns into another accomplishment. And that accomplishment turns into another accomplishment. Compounding, right? You're starting out small. You just make your bed. And then he says, if by chance you have a bad day and you come home, you at least get to come home to a made bed.
Aww.
And it's a bed you made. Makes you feel pretty good about life, right, Zach?
Do you know Lewis House?
No.
He has a podcast called The School of Greatness, and he interviews, all people who have achieved greatness and whatever. And he was talking about this concept of making your own bed. And he was like, yeah, I realized at a certain point that I had to be more authentic with this. He's like, because I had a maid and she was just making my bed every morning.
Yeah.
And I had to finally tell her, like, all right, I got to make my bed. I got to have this thing. I got to actually, because the bed was made, but he didn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I guess you could take someone else's accomplishment.
Yeah.
But so that was a big thing. I used to share that with my students too. It wasn't ever part of the curriculum or anything. I just said, dude, you got to start your day with an accomplishment. So that was a part of the discipline. Other things, timeliness. I mean, when it comes to the military, works on time, right? And being back in LA just these past few months, like I'm coming back with 11 years after the Air Force. And like, if you're on time, you're late, like 15 minutes early to everything. And then I get to meetings and stuff, and it's supposed to start, say, 7:30 in the morning. People trickle in at like 8:15. I'm like, that's not all right. I don't, there's nothing you can tell me that can tell me that's all right.
But the traffic.
Right. So okay, how about leaving earlier? How about maybe understanding that there will be traffic and leaving early? How about plotting the route the day prior? I'm starting to realize, like, just basic things, prudence, being able to do things in a way that are beneficial for the future, right? If you were to tell me, hey, Mahyar, we're going to be on this show and we're going to start at 11 o'clock on Monday, I'd go, okay. And what I would do is I'd say, okay, if I got to be there at 11 o'clock on Monday, what does 10 o'clock on Monday got to look like in order to be there at 11 o'clock on Monday? Okay, what is now, if that's what 10 o'clock needs to look like, what does 8 in the morning need to look like? And if that's what does the day prior need to look like in order for me to be there at 11 o'clock on Monday? Just working backwards, just rationing backwards. And I'm starting to realize most people don't do that. Like, it's some basic shit. Like, just if you got to be somewhere at some time, why don't you just say to yourself, okay, if I got to be there at this time, maybe going out too late on that Sunday night prior to Monday is not a good idea. But people just live like moment to moment. Is that good in a sense? Sure, being present is good. But if being present all the time is fucking up your future, then it's probably not good.
Yeah.
So that's a huge habit. I think, as human beings, if we just take myself, I take you, we just pull each other apart. We're just a bunch of habits. We're just stringed together. We're a bunch of paradigms. And a paradigm is just a bunch of habits. So some people just have a habit of being late. And if you kind of like dissect it, it's really just selfishness. It's just me saying, I value my time more. Mm-hmm. And being there 15 minutes early is a waste of my time. I mean, there's no other way you could cut it. If you cared about the other person's time, you'd probably be there on time. So
Right.
just smaller things. So I think people do appreciate that level of discipline and value towards their time. There's so many, and we can talk about a
Yeah.
lot of different little things that have carried
Now,
over.
why do you think the military has been so successful at establishing this discipline culture? Because everyone that's in the military, I mean, it's like you either adhere to it or you're just not in the military.
Yeah.
But people come out, so you obviously have been doing these habits for so long, so they're great habits for you. But like, why do you think they're so successful at having that structure?
So two parts. The first part is when you enter the military, you go through basic military training. You go to boot camp, and they break you down. They pretty much remove your identity from you. So you start there and you build up. And once your identity is removed, and it's kind of like a program. It's essentially like they are wiping the program.
The ego, wiping the
ego,
ego.
yes, wiping the ego, absolutely. And then filling that thing with their principles and concepts. And if it's congruent with the military, then happy days. But even at as early as basic training, I remember when I went through basic training back, 12 years ago, you still had people who are like, yeah, I want to join the military. They get to basic training and someone gets in their face and they yell at them and they're like, hey, get out of my face. I don't like that. And it's okay.
I think that's what Jocko Willink maybe talks about is him getting to maybe basic training or wherever it was in the training. He's like, it was always the toughest guys that were out the first.
Yeah. The egos,
Yeah.
right? The ones that had the most ego, that's probably going to be their biggest anchor, right? So start there. And then over that process, people always get weeded out. And then after basic training, going to your technical school or the place where you learn your MOS or your job in the military. And then people get weeded out there too. And eventually, when you get to the active duty military and you've got your basic training, your initial programming, you got your technical training, what you're going to do every day, and you arrive, you're ready. And then people still get weeded out there too. Because you arrive and there is a standard. The military is all about standards and expectations and that discipline. If you ask a commander, any military commander, what their sole purpose is, they're going to tell you it's to maintain good order and discipline. That's it. That's the number one job, just maintaining good order and discipline. Everything else comes second to that. So the basic training process does prepare someone to follow and adhere to certain disciplines and values. And core values are another thing too. Every branch of our military have what we call core values because you take 50 states and people that come from all corners of the world and you put them together. We can't just expect everyone to have the same values. So we got to say, hey, your values are cool. Awesome. Keep them if you want to, those personal values. But here are the ones we're going to adhere to. And for the Air Force, we got our 3 core values: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And everything happens in the spirit of those core values. And that's essentially what we're doing when we're creating values for ourselves. We're leading ourselves with those values. So when you get to the active duty military after your training and all the programming and stuff, as a supervisor in the military, as a non-commissioned officer, I had to hold the standard as a leader. I had to say, hey, this is okay. I'll stand for this, and this is what I won't stand for. And anyone who doesn't fall in line with the standards and expectations, we start low. The progressive discipline process starts slow. We just have a chat. Hey, what happened? Tell me about what happened. Why'd you do that? Oh, this is why I did that. Okay, hey, this is why I was wrong. Cool, got it. It happens again. All right, now it's not a one-way conversation. I can't have you doing that. And so it goes. If it happens again, it's not a conversation anymore. Now I got to write it down. I got to document it. If it happens again, now it's not like a counseling session. It's more of a wrist smack. And if the wrist smack doesn't work, then we just keep going down that progressive discipline process, kind of like stairs, until it's out of my hands. Well, maybe you don't want to be here. Maybe you can't follow the disciplines and the identity that the military is. And some people just can't. I mean, I've had to be the person who has essentially escorted someone out to the main gate and said, okay, now give me your ID.
Wow.
Thanks a lot. And that's it. Because some people just don't want to remove the ego. You got to yield first. You got to be, when we're talking about, you got to be able to yield and say, you know what, you're right. And because you're giving me the feedback, you're looking at this objectively, I should probably take that feedback if I want to be an effective airman or if I want to achieve my goal. And that's another one of those things, the board of directors thing, though. I think we'll talk about these 6 principles.
I really like the idea of standards. What do you recommend for people in just like regular everyday life that have their standards or they have their goals or whatever, but they don't have someone that's going to like kick them out of their life if they don't, show up on time or achieve their day to-do list, whatever that is.
So that's a great question. When it comes to standards, is it easier when you have someone mentoring you or holding you accountable? 100%. Absolutely. But what if you don't have someone day to day? Well, there are things that you can do until that person shows up. And I do believe that people will show up. But until a person shows up to help you, a mentor, a supervisor, a leader, an accountability partner, I would use, personally, my perspective is using some principles to follow. And those principles are what I would call leading myself. And I would cultivate these principles by experiences or reading books, whatever it may be, but having a core set of disciplines or a core set of principles to follow. So if no one is holding me accountable, the first thing I can do is I can have a goal. If I got a goal, if I write it down, just like that goal card, right? The one that I ripped off of my dash of my car. If I have no one holding me accountable, at least this is holding me accountable. Because like I said, if we went outside and we just approached 100 people and said, hey, what is your goal? Chances are about 90 of them won't be able to tell you their goal. And of the 10 that say, yeah, I got a goal and here it is, I would probably say maybe like 1 or 2 of them have that goal written down. If you write things down, they're guaranteed to happen 100%.
You think?
I will contest that every single day of my life until I'm dead on a hill. It will happen.
Just by writing it down.
Just by writing it down. But there are some questions that we got to ask. If I write something down and I am, number one, if I'm willing and I am able, that thing is going to happen. As long as I'm willing and I'm able, it's going to happen. So being able to write things, having a worthy ideal, just having a goal. If I have no one to hold me accountable, maybe it starts with the Post-it note on my mirror. Maybe it just starts with a goal card. Maybe it just starts on a notebook and saying, this is the thing I want to do. That's an accountability tool. And most people don't write things down. Those 90 out of 100, they don't write things down, I believe, because of the shit it's going to pull out of them in order for that to happen. Because it's going to pull some stuff out. And that's scary. That is unknown.
It really is scary because I've heard this concept as well, like put a Post-it on your mirror, whatever your goal is. But then those insecurities start creeping up. Like, well, but if I put it on my mirror, then anyone that goes in my bathroom is going to see that. And that's weird. Or like I'm going to put it on my computer, but then anyone that's there is going to see that. And then I have to talk about it. And that's uncomfortable.
And for that, I would just say, hey, be fucking proud of your shit.
Yeah.
Who cares if someone doesn't like that? I had a fear too. If you told me to journal in the military, I'd be like, why? I got a journal now. As a grown man, I got to write things down, and I got some thoughts that I want to just like get on paper. Never would have thought I'd had some foo-foo shit like a journal, but it's necessary now. It is. Like I thought that was stupid at one point in my life because the belief was, just like you said, someone is going to find it laying around and go,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Ha! You wrote that? Zach, you wrote that shit? You bitch. Oh my God. Wow.
We're gonna edit out just that one little segment.
Let's take that one out.
That'll be your introduction to the episode.
Zach, you did it.
Yeah, but that was my fear. I was like, you know what? If I write that thing down, someone's going to see it and they're going to think it's stupid. Well, I got to say to myself, it doesn't matter if they think it's stupid.
Back to the ego.
It's back to the ego. It's 100% back to the ego. So yeah, being able to write something down, having a goal, it's a necessary step in accountability.
Now, do you think handwriting it or can you type it out and print it out too? What do you think?
I'm a big advocate of writing it down, handwriting it, because every time, I wish I had my phone, every time you open up your phone, it's just like, it's different. It's different. You kind of associate it with a message, and a lot of the messages we send, we're not committed to. Like, it's just, there's a lot less commitment going on in the electronic device.
As well.
100%. You could change it. The level of commitment there is low. But when it's here, there's something that happens. You take a pen to paper, it's like you are tearing the veil of the universe, and it's like it's putting it there. Like it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like I'm just like, that's just a thought. Whatever, I'm just gonna put it on my phone. It's not really a big deal. This is that, right? So I think writing it down by hand is necessary.
What do you recommend as far as a format for that? Do you recommend writing your goals in like present tense, in the future tense? Do you recommend writing the deadline down?
So the present tense is interesting because in the same way that you read the goal, it didn't just say, hey, I want to become a speaker trainer, businesses, leaders, future leaders, corporations all around the world. It said, I am so happy and grateful now that I am speaking and training businesses.
You wrote a feeling
I wrote a
associated with
feeling, yes. And I wrote a feeling. And why did I do that? Well, here's why. I've always believed that writing causes thinking. Pretty simple. Thinking creates an image. we think in images. The image is produced and emotions are attached to the image. After emotions are attached, those emotions change the micro actions. The micro actions then affect the macro actions, and the macro actions create a reaction. Reaction becomes a result. We call that a result in life. So writing it down, but writing it in such a way that emotions are attached to that thing is what's going to change the results. Writing causes thinking. Thinking produces an image. Image gets attached to emotions. Emotions change the micro. Micro changes the macro. Macro causes a reaction. Reaction, result.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching the episode. If you're interested in contributing to the conversation and supporting the show, there's 2 easy things you can do. 1, click subscribe, and 2, visit our Patreon page where you get exclusive access to the Exploring Minds community.